and to those who come to church here. We ask you, Lord, just to guide this meeting. Let it be quick, painless, and efficient. And also heal us, Lord. Prepare our hearts for every time we encounter these kids, that we would just show them your love and your grace and mercy through everything we do. Lift up Lee as he preaches today, Lord, and all those that are hearing it. And we just give you all the glory and all the praise. In Jesus' name, amen.
Let's get down.
Yeah, I know those blocks. I wasn't sure where to put them. I'm going to start out with the reason why we felt it was important to have a meeting is so that we can all be on the same page. Part of what we're working on in Administrative Council and as the church body overall is to come up with a mission statement for the church. So I don't actually have a mission statement for the children's ministries or youth ministries yet, because we want it to be an umbrella that covers it for each one. But basically what we want to happen is all of our ministries need to tie together. They all need to have a single purpose, and that's to make disciples of Jesus Christ. However we do that. And so what we do in children's and youth ministries is we're providing a safe and loving environment for them to encounter Jesus. Sometimes, whether they're a new baby or a teenager, this is the first experience they're getting of who Jesus is and what he is through what we're doing for them. So the other part of that is we are using an orange strategy. It was developed and designed by Reggie Joyner. He was a big pastor at North Point Church. I can't tell you where, maybe Atlanta. It's a bigger mega church. It didn't start out that way. They started out a small little church and they've grown into this big organization. And this was something that they started out and designed as their church curriculum, and they now market it and sell it to other churches and other entities. And what it is basically, and what they found over years of research is that we only have 52 weeks a year. That's if the child comes every Sunday school and church. 52 days, a year to touch these kids. So what we want to do is we want to touch them, and we want to give them that little bit of Christian education, whether it's Sunday mornings, nursery, or Wednesday nights, or any other encounters they have with us. But we're also trying to equip parents. We're trying to tie it in, and why they call it orange is that the children or the families are yellow and the church is red, and together they make orange. And so it's a big tie-in there, where we want to make sure that we're giving parents things that they can take home and use. And this comes back to the command that Moses gave the Israelites in Deuteronomy 6, verse 4 through 9. It says, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord your God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength. These commandments I give you today are to be on your hearts." This is the really big one. "Impress them upon your children. Talk about them when you sit at home, when you walk along the road, when you lie down, and when you get up. Tie them as symbols on your hands and bind them on your foreheads. Write them on the door frames of your houses and on your gates." So that commandment is the basis of the orange strategy, that we are, as a church, here to equip parents to do this. And the Israelites lived as a, big family unit. They grandparents, great-grandparents, uncles, aunts, everybody helped raise the children up. So that's the idea behind all this, is that we are all working together, whether it's our child or not, as this community, as the church, to impress these things upon the children. It'll start in the nursery, where we're just loving them, giving them a safe place to come play. And then it goes up into the toddler room, where we actually have curriculum. And you have it in your packet there to look at in front of you. It's real simple curriculum for little activities. I printed off September's for you. And it'll be monthly. It's just a monthly guide, and just play with them, whatever. You have to gauge it on what children are present, how they're feeling that day. Some of them just aren't into it, and so you just do whatever you can do. But the thing we want to just make sure is that we are presenting Jesus and God's love to them. It's three basic truths with the orange strategy. God made me, God loves me, and Jesus wants to be my friend forever. So everything you'll see ties into those 3 basic truths that we want these kids from toddler up through Miss Mary's class, up to kindergarten age. That's what we're doing, and you'll see it's constant repetition. You know, as teacher, repetition is the key to making kids remember things. So you'll see it's constantly repetitive. And for people who aren't teachers, that seems a little redundant, but it does work. You know, I've seen it at play with these new Sunday school classes, and it really does work. And then they move into the K through 5th grade room, which they will then learn, it matures with them. And then they learn that their 3 basic truths are: I need to make the wise choice, I can trust God no matter what, and I should treat others the way I want to be treated. Which I just love that. You know, we're not just telling them Bible stories, we're telling them how that Bible story can apply to their lives today. This month they're doing respect. It's been the best lessons ever, because they're being told you respect people in authority even if they don't deserve it, even if they aren't nice, even if you don't like them. God put them there in authority for a reason. This is biblical, so we should respect them.
That paper Ryder brought home last week, I circled that where it says that, and I put it up on the
Isn't
fridge.
that-
I'm
I
like,
mean,
everybody in our house needs to read this.
Yeah, and to respect others by what you say and do. I mean, this is good stuff. I love it. This is telling them how they can live. And then we haven't began the orange curriculum in the upper levels yet, but it's going to get there. But we're still trying to transition them into life application. We're not just telling them stories. We're not just babysitting them, but we are teaching these kids how they can live it out every single day. And I love it.
It's probably our digital dad.
So that said, when you're in the toddler room, it's going to be in Miss Mary's classroom. So nursery will still be in nursery, and the kids that are like 18 months to 3 will be, unless they're very mature. Some of these children we're going to have to just look at and say, they may benefit by going to children's church rather than nursery. So it's just going to have to be one of those things where we're going to have to maybe talk with the parent and say, I really think that whoever would do better in the children's church where they may learn more. And if someone's 18 months, but yet they're just not quite there yet, maybe they stay in the nursery a little while longer. But that's our base age. And so they will go 18 months to 3 years, will go over to Miss Mary's classroom. This is going to be a big transition. I'm going to start putting it in the bulletin, newsletters, for parents to understand. Because now children's church then will have to meet down here. Children's church will meet down here in the room beside the youth room. I don't even know the room number, to be honest, but it'll be the 3rd door on your right. And I'll have it signed, and Beth and I will be out there directing parents to take their kids there. And then of course there'll be a transition with Sunday school. When kids come to Sunday school from Miss Mary, they'll still meet up there in her room. But there's going to be, it's just going to be some transition time. It's going to be a little rough those first couple of weeks till we get parents adjusted. Some things about safe sanctuary, nursery policies, and just some basic guidelines. Sign-in sheets. The sign-in sheet looks like this, and it'll have, this one's for children's church, but it'll have the child's name, their grade, their allergies, and then their parents' names, and then there's just a check-off sheet for the date from whenever they're there. This is so important. We got to make sure, and then I'm going to put down here, I didn't realize it until today, that I didn't have a place for the volunteers to sign in. The reason this is important, it's hard to remember to do it sometimes, but I've had 2 occasions just since I've been doing children's ministry where at first we thought we had a contagious illness that I was going to need to notify parents and whoever was in that nursery about. It turned out to be a false alarm. It wasn't, so I didn't have to contact anybody, but I went to go get the nursery sheet and nobody had been signed in. I was trying to rack my brain to see who had been in there. So it's just important, that these are kids, they get sick, who knows what could happen. And the other reason why it's so important is we also had an incident where a child was hurt, scratched in nursery, and the parent was notified, but there was a custody issue. And the other parent who wasn't here was quite upset and was going to call DHS and report it. So that ties into, we have to know who's in the nursery, especially the adults, because I was needing to notify the adults. You may be contacted by DHS, just tell them what happened. The other thing that ties into our 2 adult rule, the safe sanctuary rule, is 2 adults at all times. And we've not been really adhering to that, but we need to start. That was a big red flag for me when that happened, that thank God there were 2 adults in there that could validate the story of what happened, that the child wasn't mistreated, and that it's our safe sanctuary policy. We will be in great danger as a church body to lawsuit if a child does get injured and we do not have, because it's policy, it is written, it's in our church discipline stuff, there will be 2 adults present at all times. That said, if a couple of things, if you're working in nursery and they go to drop off children, to ask the parents to please wait until both adults are present. Sometimes people run a little bit late, and I understand that's an inconvenience for the parent, but once again, we have to adhere to this 2 adult rule, and it only takes a minute for something to happen. So they need to wait to drop their child off until the two adults are present. The other thing is, should there be an incident where we don't have 2 adults, say somebody got sick and couldn't come in and I'd have anybody to cover, we'll have to just close that nursery for that day. I'm no longer going to put the worker or our church in jeopardy for that. I mean, it's just not worth it. I mean, there have been lawsuits, not Central. Oh, it was the one where we had fall retreat that year. We met with Vinny. It was a church in Fayetteville, Sequoia United Methodist Church. Now it was an actual abuse by a janitor, but
had he not been alone with the child,
yeah,
had there been 2 adults,
right,
that probably wouldn't have happened.
and they were sued for millions of dollars. I mean, it nearly bankrupted them. So it happens. All it takes is an accusation. It doesn't even have to be true.
Right.
And media and everything else. I mean, so I want us to be smart. I want us to protect our church. I don't think anybody that's volunteering in there is going to do anything wrong. It's just policy, and it's just to protect everybody, children and adults. So let me make sure I'm keeping on track here.
If you close, like the nursery part, would you just combine everybody back together? How would you do that?
That may have to be we'll have to see who's there kind of a deal. Because the reason why we're separating nursery and toddler is because at this point, we've got 3 new little babies. We've got Brantley and Oliver, and then little Kate was just born. And then you got some that are sort of starting to walk, that may not go over into the toddler room, and then you get toddlers in there, and that's how the baby got hurt. That baby got scratched by a toddler. So, I mean, they're rougher, they're more mobile. You can't hardly lay the babies down because the toddlers are trying to play, and plus it's very crowded. I mean, it gets to be
It
quite...
makes sense.
Yeah.
It's a lot different than, I can remember, helping in the nursery when we were at the other church, and you might have, if you've ever had more than like 4 kids
Yeah.
on Sunday, then that was like a big number.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're getting lots of kids. And it wouldn't be like we wouldn't close it off. The parents would be welcome to go in with their own child, and stay in there and watch them, but we couldn't watch them, for them.
Yeah, we can't take that responsibility.
And the parents couldn't watch anyone else's child,
If they haven't had background check, DHS check, and training. So yeah, that'll have to be just a call, call by call or Sunday by Sunday. Hopefully it won't happen. Hopefully we'll have enough people on standby that we can just, and that's been the case lately. Someone's just stepped up and said, yeah, I'll fill in today. And I know things happen, and I know people get sick, and sometimes people forget. I will try to send you reminders. I too forget. Or am late with the reminders, or emails don't get delivered. It's just so many things can happen. So, but that's just that's just to keep us all safe and to keep the kids safe. those are, I will have to give you, the background check. Tara, I don't think you've had one done, have you?
Here?
Yeah, okay. I'll give you that paperwork when we're finished here. And then there's another paper for child maltreatment registry. It just goes to Department of Health and Human Services to say that there's never been, they check, because it asks for your children's names and social security numbers too, because it's checking to see if there was ever a report made of abuse, so. And I'm sure it'll come back fine. And
It does. I'm sure it is.
it'll be fine. I gave you all a copy of our, well, they don't call it safe sanctuary policy, but that's what it is, the child protection policy. It's the same one that's been in effect since 2011. We need it updated, it just has not been yet. And you can look through that and talk and see what some of the policies are. There's not an application, you'll see staff guidelines, there's not an application process. And we don't quite hold to the 6-month guideline. If someone has been recommended and they haven't been coming here for 6 months, but someone knows them because they're a family friend, we just write down a recommendation and get around that way. I gotta get my... Okay, we are trying, it does say there's no helpers under 18 on that, one of the first pages, it says that. That's to be left alone in the room, under 18. They can't be under 18. But we are looking at trying to get some youth helpers we're actually trying to get some middle school helpers for children's church, and we're trying to get some youth helpers for a toddler room. Couple of things there. It comes back to that family ministry thing. If they have, the earlier you involve these children in part of your ministry, the more likely they are to continue to do that as they grow. It gives them something to do to feel useful and part of the plan and purpose of the church. And it also will provide an extra person to go grab wipes or snacks or whatever. So we're trying to get some people signed up for that. And the youth have been through a training. I did that with them a couple of months ago before VBS. The middle school, your little middle school helpers, which will be the ones in children's church, so don't really apply because you two aren't doing children. Well, you do sometimes, don't you? You fill in for children's church. If you have middle schoolers in there for children's church, they're really just there to be a gopher. Go get the snacks, whatever. They don't take children to the bathroom. The adults have to do that. Now the youth helping in, I'm not going to put any youth in the younger nursery, but the toddler nursery, but they can't change diapers. They're not supposed to be carrying any children unless they're over 15. We would prefer no one be carrying kids around. That's not ideal anyway, especially with toddlers. They're big enough they can kind of walk around. But if they need to be over 15 before they carry any kid around, any child around. You can use them. I mean, they can help with the craft. They can help clean up. Don't be afraid to ask them to do things for you. That's why they're there. Make them feel useful and needed and like they're contributing. There also may be a time when you've got a child that needs like maybe a little one-on-one. And so they would be really good to help to do that, to help that child that keeps wandering off and trying to, get into things they're not supposed to. They can kind of be one-on-one with that child too. There's a sheet before you all leave today. I need your all cell phone numbers because what I'm going to do, I'm going to provide a sheet for everybody that works both nurseries because what we need for you all to do is to call each other. If you can't be here, if you need to switch or you need to find a replacement, we really need for you all to try to call each other. And so I'm going to give everybody's number so that can happen. Right now, it's kind of hard to do because you don't have everybody's phone numbers. But that just helps us. Beth and I are volunteers too. And we really have like 16 irons in the fire most Sundays. And sometimes I let the ball drop because I'm going so many different directions. So it just really helps us. Now I understand there may be a last minute thing. And we've provided you all our cell phone numbers at the bottom of this meeting paper, so that if there is a last minute thing, you may do better just to call us. If you text and I don't reply back right away, call me, because I may have not heard my text ding or whatever. And so just so I know that you're not coming, and that I can try to find a replacement. And Beth and I can at times replace, but we're teaching Sunday school. Sometimes we're already replacing somebody, so I think a lot of times people assume that we're here and we can just fill in, and that's not always the case. So if you can call each other, say, Terry, you need to be gone the first Sunday, and you're going to be here the fourth Sunday, you can call Sandy and say, hey, will you switch with me? And that's usually not a problem. Most people are pretty good about that. So I will email you that list just as soon as I get everybody through the training and get everybody's numbers. I really think that was... We don't give medications. I mean, the child's with you for an hour. If they need medicines, then their parent needs to administer medicines to them. They really shouldn't be in the nursery if they're sick. I don't know that we've had much of a problem with that.
Just the usual runny nose, cold.
Yeah, I mean, we have to be careful. And if you really feel like a child is sick, you need to let the parent know, hey, this child feels like they have a fever, and maybe they shouldn't be here.
Pass everything around.
There are gloves and things to change diapers. I will make sure by September 7th, when we do the toddler nursery, when we start that, there will be, because they're not right now in Mary's room because it's never been used for a changing area. So I'll make sure you've got stuff in there, but you don't really have a changing pad. Most of those kids, well, no, you'll have some that need to be changed. I'll have to probably we'll have to come up with something. I'll have to think that through a little more. Well, we may have, yeah.
We'll find something.
We'll figure something out and make sure you have what you need.
Okay.
Now, if you find that you're needing something else, that I've missed something, please just text me, email me, call me, whatever. I will be the first person to tell you that I can't think of everything. And we are going to offer a CPR and first aid class. I don't know when yet, but if you're interested.
Excuse me, the toy closet is locked in the nursery?
It is.
Yeah. Got some kids like, ah,
That's strange. Okay.
Karen just asked somebody.
Yeah, that's fine.